Hi, welcome back to Real Wizardry. I'm Neil, and in today's video I'm going to tell you a story about someone who believed himself to be a werewolf, a real one. Now, this video contains material that some viewers might find offensive, scary, worrying, or even controversial. Oh no! With that in mind, I'd like to say right off the bat that I'm leaving opinions out of this. I'm going to let you make up your own mind, and I'm going to illustrate facts and ask questions, but I'm not trying to influence anyone in any direction at all. Personal choices, and particularly life decisions, identities and differences in the way that people are put together regarding sexuality, gender, the right of individuals to express themselves however they desire, that should all be sacrosanct, and provided those rights don't infringe on the extant rights of others, I'm very much of the mind that all humans should live and let live, free from hate or judgment. So with that in mind, let's delve into this controversial topic, the boy who thought he was a werewolf. It's coming up right after this. If you're a smart person, you know that people come in all shapes and sizes, with different clothes to express social norms, affiliations, subgroups, countercultures, or just to stand out from the crowd. From tattoos to body alterations like slicing a tongue down the middle, people like to express who they are through their clothes, and they buy cars to reflect who they are. And if you've seen this channel before, you'll know that people like me like to create and wear their own t-shirt designs, for Real Wizardry. And there's nothing wrong with that, is there? Well, what if their true self isn't what you want it to be? In modern society, we have a word for people who don't accept people with different colour skin. We call them racists. If we don't accept people's genders, we might call them bigots or transphobic. But what about other assertions? Is there a limit to what we should support? Now, I'm not taking things to the extreme or trying to convince anyone that being unaccepting of people is a good idea. I simply want to cover a topic that has wider implications, and the answers might lie in the fringes or the grey areas, the spectrum of what we call normal, accepted reality. To make sure I keep the identity of my subject a secret, I'm going to need to change certain details, and while the identification should hopefully be hidden by my doing this, I can assure you that other than the names, locations and other identification points, everything I'm about to tell you is 100% true. And it raises some interesting points about modern life and what we all take for granted within modern society and reality as a whole. Let me tell you a story. It's a true story.
Oh, really?
No, really, I promise you, it is. It all started back in the early 1980s.
Booyah!
I moved to a small village in Devon with my parents and got enrolled in the village school. I was very small. By the time I joined in 1985, aside from one fat boy punching my teacher squarely in the jaw on my first day, and hiding in a boarded up classroom for fear of flying roof tiles coming through the windows during a hurricane, the only other weird thing that I remember for the first few years of my schooling is one boy. We'll call him Max. Max was a strange kid, tall and skinny with a pinched face and bony, overlong limbs. Later in life, I would make the assumption that he was probably malnourished, if not neglected. I don't recall seeing any bruises on him, but Max did come from a troubled home. When I say Max was a strange kid, I don't mean that we had different hobbies or that he was culturally or even physically much different to me. Believe it or not, I was skinny too once. But what made Max particularly odd was the fact that he claimed to be a werewolf. Max lived just outside the village in an area that was renowned for not being particularly wealthy. Now, there's nothing wrong with that per se, but from his uniform to his hair, you could tell he wasn't being taken care of. This might be one reason why he always acted differently. I've studied psychology myself, but I'm not going to pretend to be an expert here. What I will say, however, is that Max was probably not a werewolf.
Surprise!
Naturally, kids can be cruel, and as if the state of his clothes and hair weren't enough, we all knew about Max's strange claims, and obviously we asked him to prove it. Max would perform something he called the air walk, a series of very fluid but very fast movements, always done by jumping off a wall and appearing to be walking down some steps made of air. It was quite strange to watch, and I remember thinking, that's pretty cool. It's not At all convincing to an adult, of course, and even to me as an 8-year-old child, I wasn't going to believe Max was a werewolf just because he could wiggle his legs fast. Fast forward to when Max left the primary school that we both attended. He was a few years older than me, so I might have been 9 or 10 by this point, and I already knew that Max had been seeing someone about his brain. I didn't know the details at the time, but now I'm guessing that he was seeing a psychiatrist. When I went to the local secondary school, or high school for our American viewers, I noticed that Max wasn't there. It was such a big school anyway, we had thousands of different students and we had plenty of different personalities, like the guy who overheard a joke I was making about salad, thought I was insulting him and decided to bust up my nose. Of course, I didn't even know that guy existed until his fist informed me that he did, but that's another story. Max wasn't there, and his absence was felt. When I was about 13, I started a paper round. Max's house happened to be on my round, and it was a fairly normal house. But it always stank of cigarettes, and the garden was overgrown. The mother looked like an uglier version of Petunia Dursley with huge rectangular plastic glasses, and the father was like a bespectacled, vest-wearing wrestler, dirty 5 o'clock shadow at 11 in the morning and a permanent stench of body odour and smoke. They never paid for their newspaper bill on time, but they would always complain if I wasn't there by 6 p.m. When I first started delivering the paper, I was terrified of the dog that would bark as I came up the path, and then bite at the paper and yank it through the letterbox, tearing my fingers unless I was particularly fast. I developed a technique where I would lift the flap first, and then slam the paper through it as fast as I could without getting my fingers caught, and this resulted in a torn paper more than once. Obviously they complained about that, but this one time I did it, the dog was waiting for me. And it wasn't a dog. They didn't even have a dog. Max was sat in the hallway and I could see him through the letterbox. He was waiting for the paper, and as soon as he heard me coming up the path, he started barking like a dog and snapping at the door. Now clearly the counselling hadn't worked. Max was now much older, much stronger and much more delusional. I later joined the College of Art, and by this point, in the mid to late 1990s, things were starting to go okay for Max. He would catch my bus sometimes and we might talk about the day-to-day issues, nothing too in-depth, but he would vanish for months at a time, and I later learned that these were the periods of time when he had been sectioned under the Mental Health Act and locked in a secure hospital for the protection of himself and others. I never did track whether this was during the full moon though. Max was still experiencing mental health issues, obviously. Many years went by and I carried on with my own life, getting a job, learning to drive, moving out, and then my brother informed me that Max now went by the new name, and let's call her Maxine. Sure enough, next time I saw Maxine, she was wearing a dress and makeup and did look pretty happy. But things took a very nasty turn. She was caught taking items from a shop nearby and after several similar offences was locked up and committed suicide in prison. It was a tragic end to a tragic life, fraught with identity issues, mental health problems, and social, financial, familial, and physical hardship. When Maxine was Max, as a child, teen, and adult, claiming to be a male werewolf, she was roundly dismissed as mad, even locked up. But when she claimed to be a female human trapped inside a male human's body, she was permitted surgery to make her real identity manifest. And was that the right call? Is it ever the right call? If the techniques existed to have made Maxine into a real werewolf, complete with the creation of a tail, using hair plug implants all over her face and body, and filing down her teeth into sharp points, should this transformation have been done? If not, why not? If so, why? We do have the surgical know-how. We could have made Maxine into, to all outward appearances at least, a werewolf. Does this mean that we should have? Was that what was in her best interests at the time? And what's the difference between this and genital surgery? It appears to the outside world that transsexuals are generally much happier with their assumed genders, but there are many examples of people feeling trapped in a strange limbo or twilight zone on the fringes of society and not accepted by either biologically assigned gender group. For me, of course, I'm happy to accept people regardless of looks, and that includes colour, facial features, physical ability, outward agenda, loads of stuff, including beliefs. I even know and like people who voted for Brexit, for goodness sake.
Oh my god!
Too soon? Yeah, I know, but I'll accept you and your opinion as valid, even if I don't agree with it. And the problems come when compassion for people, the rights of others, their opinions, and their well-being of everybody involved is being compromised. I suggest that while we should promote acceptance and kindness, we also need to work out a better way to judge what's really best for everyone. I don't know how to do that. Perhaps you do, and if you do, please put it down in the comments. No hate, please. Let's keep things respectful. And in conclusion then, perhaps the time has come to seek out the truth on this subject. Clearly it's not as clear-cut as making one rule for everyone, and this is the point. We are all different. At various times we do all have motivations, identity crises, low self-esteem, and calls for attention. Other times we can be entirely, all-consumingly and permanently fixated on making a dramatic, life-changing choice to fix what we feel is wrong, even within our own anatomy. The choices aren't easy, of course, but one thing I think is clear. While the person that holds the knife isn't the person who makes the decision, perhaps we need to consider whether giving people what they want is more important than giving them what they need. If you like this video, please click the like button. It tells YouTube it was a good video and more people should see it. And I know it's a bit different to my usual stuff. Hopefully you still liked it. If you want to see some more of this sort of thing, just click on that subscribe button and ding the bell. By dinging the bell, it means that you will be informed every time I go live or upload anything in the future. A massive shout out to these amazing people. They are my patrons and members, and they help me out every single month. If you want to be one of these people, head on down to the link in the description where I've got a whole load of other stuff, including my website, my shop, and a free giveaway, which I haven't mentioned for a while, but it's still down there. It's linked in every video, so check that out. I'll be back next time with some more magical awesomeness, but until next time, as always,
Stay magical.